I guess we should talk about it. It's been coming for a long time now. Very much like your mother when I visit. Good opening to the topic, sure. Liberation Day. When did we decide it was called Liberation Day? I have not heard that term used before. Yesterday? Did he decide that arbitrarily? I don't know. When was that? Trump said it once? Okay. That's okay, sure. Whatever. Yeah. No, it's pretty big. Here. Get me some Mar-a-Lago face. Oh my God, she looks like an apple pie or something. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about.
Have any plans?
Nice weather.
She's 19 years old. That's just what conservatism does to you.
Everybody's out. It's Monday. We have another big week. On Wednesday, it will be Liberation Day in America, as President Trump has so proudly dubbed it. The cabinet will be here for the event. It'll be our first Rose Garden event of this administration. So you all will be invited to attend and cover this historic moment. The president will be announcing a tariff plan that will roll back the unfair trade practices that have been ripping off our country for decades. He's doing this in the best interest of the American worker. We also had great news that, this morning on the border. Our Homeland Security team, our national security team, continues to do an incredibly effective job.
That's great, man. Looking forward to the Rose Garden announcement.
President Donald Trump now says he will tariff all countries. He promises the reciprocal tariffs will bring in substantial money. And as ABC's Perry Russin reports, there are fears of an international trade war and rising prices.
With days to go until President Trump's reciprocal tariffs kick in, Trump now saying he will tariff all countries.
You'd start with all countries, so let's see what happens.
It comes after his Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the administration would focus on the 15% of countries with the highest tariffs against the U.S., Bessent calling them the dirty 15.
The tariffs will be far more generous than those countries were to us, meaning they will be kinder than those countries were to the United States of America over the decades.
The tariffs will be announced and implemented on Wednesday, as Trump calls it Liberation Day, as he promises an economic boom.
We're going to have boom down USA.
There are wider fears of an international trade war, and some economists say the added cost will get handed down to American consumers, raising prices. The tariffs will be in addition to the 25% tariffs on all cars and auto parts made outside the U.S. According to one estimate, the cost for a new car next year could go up $6,000.
I'm looking at the Fox Business, the recent videos, and it looks like they're not for a supposedly economically focused channel. They are not talking about the tariffs as much as you'd think, possibly because there's not much good to say on them. Oh wait, 18 minutes ago. Okay, I had this tab. Hold on, I had this tab open on my other window. I hadn't refreshed it till I moved it over. This wasn't there. Okay, hold on. Maybe I'm being proven wrong. Just added this one. Talk about it. Wait a second. Is this just going to be that one couple whining about their millennial wine imports?
Tribeca wine merchants. If you are in New York or anywhere on the Eastern Seaboard, you know that is one of the top wine places. He joins me in a Fox Business exclusive. First, what are you hearing about Wednesday? Yes or no on 200% tariffs?
Unknown, which is just as probable.
Okay. As for the other stuff I saw beforehand, let's see. Greenland, Canada, Doge, Social Security. Oh, here we go.
Welcome back. Now a look at where markets ended the week after we saw the latest read on the Federal Reserve's key gauge of inflation. The February PCE index rose at the same level as the month before, while core PCE prices ticked higher. Both remain above that 2% level. We also saw weaker than expected personal spending in the month of February. All of this ahead of a 25% tariff on imported cars and auto parts set to kick in this upcoming Wednesday, along with President Trump's promised reciprocal tariffs on key countries, again, kicking in on Wednesday. Joining me now is the Lonsky Group president, John
The economy president, by the way. He's going to be the money president. According to that recent polling, Trump's economic policy and his handling of other countries, with regards to tariffs, I mean, are now the things on which he is least trusted. Like, that's insane. For Trump, the businessman politician, and for Republicans in general, who voters are always more deferential to in economic issues, even though they're objectively worse at handling the economy.
John, great to see you.
Same here, Maria.
Should we be afraid of this upcoming Wednesday with these tariffs kicking in?
I'd be cautious, and I think what's going to happen is maybe early on, tariffs provide a boost to the prices of durable goods. But my guess would be that over time, tariffs will do more to slow consumer spending than to provide a long-lasting boost to price inflation.
Why would consumption slow if the price isn't going up? What does that mean?
So what do you want to do going into these tariffs? I mean, as an investor, do you want to take to the sideline?
You know, the implication of that is that you just have less money, right? It's very basic supply demand. If tariffs bump the cost of a good up, right, it gets more expensive, so demand goes down, or at least the point in the supply demand curve now means that fewer people can buy the product. As fewer people buy it, the demand for it goes down, and that means that the price drops as well. So you end up with an equilibrium that is now lower on the curve than before. In other words, you just have less money. You just have less money. Like it's not about the prices going up in the long run. It's about lowered consumer demand. Why is the consumer demand down if the price of the commodity hasn't gone down? Because you have less money.
Wait to see how markets react, or do you think it's going to be less burdensome than some people expected?
I take a cautious stance. I would wait and see how consumers respond to these tariffs, whether or not any slowdown in consumer spending is so severe that companies are forced to cut back on staff. That might be of some concern. And by the way, next week, this upcoming week.
Jesus. Tesla's going up because it's rebounding from losing like a third of its value in a month. But look at what's happening with Toyota and Honda here. Jesus Christ. In a week.
We are going to get a report on March payrolls, and that's going to be quite interesting because we've had a slowdown in hiring activity the first 2 months of this year. If that continues into March, that's all the more reason to expect a slower rate of growth for consumer spending, and with that, more downward revisions of corporate earnings forecasts that are related to consumer spending.
Well,
the index of consumer sentiment is looking grim, man. From March 2024, it was 79.4. Now it's 57. It's going down. It went down 12% month over month. The cliff is only just the beginning. Yeah, no, it's gonna get rough. It's gonna get pretty bad. There's no light at the end of this tunnel, at least not for a little while, right? Like we're staring down the barrel of a gun here, economically speaking.
That's exactly where I want to go next, because the quarter is ending. The last day of the first quarter, of course, on Monday, and then the earnings for the first quarter will start flowing. Are you expecting a rough...
Year over year is more important. Consumer sentiment can be seasonal. Yeah, that's true. So if you year over year it, like the year over year change is minus 28.2%. Current economic conditions, negative 22.7. Index of consumer expectations, minus 32%. Like you can year over year it. It's not great. It's not even a COVID thing. COVID was like that was going to lead to an economic downturn no matter what. We're not comparing apples to oranges here. This is straight up like Biden presided over I'm not saying it was a good economy. We know the little guy's always getting screwed over, but like generally speaking, a fine economy by the standards of, 21st century capitalism. And it is just getting run into the ground.
Pre-announcement season, because already we've heard from FedEx, Nike, on Friday, Lululemon, all talking about the uncertainty around tariffs and an inability to give us real guidance for the year ahead. What are you expecting from the earnings season?
Well, this weaker than expected guidance, I think it's a sign of things to come. There's a great deal of uncertainty going forward. And there's also, again, that sense that this economy is finally slowing. It may be for reasons that extend beyond tariffs. It would also include cutbacks in government spending resulting from the DOGE efforts to trim waste and abuse in government spending. So the jobs reports going forward are not going to look that good. We want to keep in mind that when you talk about cutbacks in federal spending, this will also have an impact, a negative impact early on as far as private sector hiring activity is concerned. There's a lot of jobs in the private sector, healthcare, that are tied to government spending.
Yeah, so the jobs have largely been in healthcare, John. So
is that a good collar roll? That is a good collar roll, yeah. I'm not often given to compliment these people, but that is a very nice collar roll right there for a button-down collar Oxford shirt.
Yeah, so the jobs have largely been in healthcare, John. So where do you think the job growth is coming from going forward? Should we be looking at some of the high-tech names like AI in terms of job creation?
High-tech names like AI. God help me. God help this country.
Liberation Day is almost here. That is what President Trump has dubbed April 2nd, when he says America will get money and respect back by imposing a suite of tariffs potentially around the world. What might these tariffs hold for the U.S. economy? Joining me now is Michael Froman. He was U.S. Trade Representative for President Obama and is currently the President of the Council on Foreign Relations. Mike, welcome. I want to begin by showing a chart, just a simple chart that gives you the average tariff rate on imports to the U.S., starting in 1947 when they were about 8%. And then they go basically, it's a straight line down all the way to 2015 or so. It's under 2%. And now if you look at the proposed Trump tariffs, they take you right back up to around 8%. In other words, reversing 50, 70 years of downward movement on tariffs. It feels like Trump is taking the United States and the world into a new era.
Those tariffs were targeted and made by people with brain cells, by the way. Well, I disagree with a lot of... tariffs are usually pretty dumb. The difference, I think, being, or the broader difference being, that we had a manufacturing base back in the 1960s. So if we wanted to protect domestic industry, there was actually something to protect.
A global market sell-off, it was ugly, and it is setting up major jitters for the opening bell on Wall Street just minutes away. And this all has to do with tariffs. New, big, and sometimes conflicting threats from President Trump and his advisors. As we said, this sent the Asian markets down. You can see 4% in Japan. That's a lot. U.S. stock futures have been down this morning. You can take a look right there with the NASDAQ down more than a point, the S&P down nearly a point. And this comes after
also saying that this would apply essentially to...
I haven't heard a rumor about 15 countries, 10 or 15.
So you're starting with all countries?
Essentially, all of the countries that we're talking about, wouldn't be talking about all countries. It's not a cutoff.
You can tell so clearly in the video that he doesn't know what the 15 countries that he's referred to before are. He's the one who's referred to the 15 countries. So he, past a point, it's just sundowning. Sure, it's all countries now. Why not?
So what the debate appears to be right now is whether to apply individualized tariff rates on the U.S. trading partners. Essentially,
there's no debate, man. None of them know what they're doing. None of them have any idea. We keep seeing evidence, like with the Signal group chat leak. It's not a big nefarious, behind the scenes plan or anything. They're dumb. They're just dumb as shit. Should be thankful for it, honestly. My mom yesterday told me it wasn't fair that India had a tariff of 100% on Harley Davidsons and that they were screwing us like the average person in India could even afford a Harley. Literally, tariffs hurt the country that imports. Unless you're trying to protect an industry, who in America is being harmed by this? The Harley Davidson Corporation? What is that? These... Yeah. It's difficult to do any kind of news or analysis on stuff like this. Because sometimes there's very little to say other than everyone's really stupid and they're destroying things for no reason. Speaking of idiots who make things worse for no reason, can somebody please explain to me why we're still giving this guy airtime? This shit makes me feel terrible, man. Carville says, wow, Trump's administration is collapsing. Now I think he is going to preside over a 1,000-year Reich. Is this the Keys guy? No, it's James Carville. This was the guy who said Democrats should just be quiet until the Trump administration makes a mistake. This guy's evil. Anti-Bernie Sanders. It's this guy. Democrat consultancy rot.
So will the recent Signalgate scandal trigger a massive downfall for the Trump administration? Legendary Democratic strategist James Carville made this bold prediction just a month ago.
I believe that this administration, in less than 30 days, in the midst of a massive collapse, in particularly a collapse in public opinion.
Thanks.
He recently
this stunning prediction, and it was the Trump administration will fuck up and people will dislike that. Phenomenal stuff. Thank you. You can really tell why this guy is paid $500 billion a minute at his consultancy meetings. He's not even in the game anymore, man. He just calls in sometimes. Ugh.
Democrats in a New York Times op-ed to embark on the most daring political maneuver in the history of our country, roll over and play dead, allow the Republicans to crumble beneath their own weight, and make the American people miss us. Joining me now is the Ragin' Cajun. He's a veteran political consultant, co-host of the Politics War Room podcast, and the man behind Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign victory. So a month ago, here's the full quote of what you wrote, James, in the Times. At this rate, the honeymoon, the Trump honeymoon, will be over. Best case by Memorial Day, but more likely in the next 30 days. And in November of 2025, we start turning the tide with what will be remembered as one of the most important elections in recent years, the Virginia governor's race. You know that we extended this invitation to you a month ago when you first wrote those words, because we thought, what will Carville say when that deadline comes? What are you thinking?
Well, what tense are we in? Is it collapsing or has it collapsed? That's the only argument to have. And I was wrong. I said Memorial Day is before April Fool's Day, which the Trump administration should make a national holiday because it so accurately represents who they are. So I'm not really, we're not arguing when we look at what's happening in the markets. We look at what's happening on Signalgate. We look at what's happening all around us. Treating measles with apricot pits or something like that. I think the thing is collapsed. But I'll go to you. Let's take the middle ground here and say it's collapsing, and I'll meet you halfway. But that's about all I can
Harry
do.
And
Dog, no one's even talking about Signalgate anymore. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters.